The next article I wanted to talk about is titled, Representative Madison Cawthorn is Waging a Spiritual Battle Against Evil and Vile Washington, D.C. This is written by Kyle Mantilla on rightwingwatch.org, and it actually came with a few clips. There are 3 clips that I wanted to watch about this. So let's read this article, and then we're going to check out some clips. Several Republican members of Congress, North Carolina state legislators, various candidates for office, and radical religious right activists gathered at Temple Baptist Church in Mount Airy, North Carolina last week for the North Carolina Faith and Freedom Coalition's Salt and Light Conference. That is a long fucking sentence. That whole thing was a single sentence, and it was a proper sentence. It wasn't a run-on. But my God, that was a mouthful of a sentence to read. Anyways, among the politicians in attendance was Representative Madison Cawthorn, who used his time in front of his home state crowd to declare that he's waging a spiritual battle in the supposedly evil and vile Washington, D.C., against people like Democratic House Speaker Nancy Pelosi and her cold, evil eyes. Again, that was one full sentence. Holy shit, these guys know how to write a sentence. Anyways, I wanted to introduce you to this guy. I've talked about Representative Madison Cawthorn before, and I'm sure you've heard about him in the news, but just in case you haven't, I want to remind you guys of a couple of things he had to say in a recent public appearance that he had. Check this out. This was in Georgia, I believe.
But my friends, you know, everything that we're sitting here talking about, we're all so passionate right now. The things that we are wanting to fight for, it doesn't matter if our votes don't count.
That's exactly right.
Because, you know, if our election systems continue to be rigged and continue to be stolen, then it's going to lead to one place, and it's bloodshed.
Oh, shit. That's real. He may not realize how serious that is, or maybe he does, I don't know. But a public figure, a congressman, encouraging political violence is a new step. This is a new thing. People throughout U.S. history generally have agreed that allowing or encouraging violence, political violence, is a bad thing. We shouldn't do it. If we live in a civilized society, we can't do that shit. And here we are, they're doing it again. People are going to lose their lives, most likely as a result of what this guy is saying right now. We should be disturbed by the new low that he has taken. But in that same appearance, he had a little bit more to say. This section was about the January 6th rioters. Listen to this.
We are going to support the 535 Americans that were held captured from January 6th.
Political hostages, no doubt. So this is something that we are trying to figure out everything out about. And when we're seeking answers, they are giving us the biggest runaround that you possibly can imagine. And so the big problem is we don't actually know where all the political prisoners are. And so if we were to actually be able to go and try and bust them out, and let me tell you, the reason why they've taken these political prisoners is because they're trying to make an example.
This guy is encouraging the perception that the people who rioted and broke the law on January 6th, he wants people to believe that they are political prisoners and should be busted out of jail. That's what he's saying. He just said they're political prisoners and we should try to go and bust them out of jail. Holy shit, that is a new low for a public representative, a U.S. federal congressman. To say this shit is serious shit. This is real. Well, he had more to say at his most recent public appearance. There are 3 clips in this I wanted to check out, so take a look at this one.
It is time for the American Christian church to come out of the shadows, to say no longer are we going to allow our culture to be determined by people who hate the things that we believe in. We are going to stand valiantly for God's incredible, inerrant truths.
I just want to point something out. If anybody is on Satan's payroll, it's this guy. Who has 2 thumbs and is on Satan's payroll? This guy right here, okay? I don't hate you or the things you believe in. I don't give a shit. I want you to stop cramming it down my throat. That is it. That is all I'm asking. Is that really too much to ask? Do you have to go on a second set of crusades before you'll let it rest? Just fucking leave me alone. That is all I want. And this guy is out here propagandizing to people, telling them that people like me hate them. This is all part of the persecution complex. They need this for group loyalty, for camaraderie, for control. That's why they do this. For enthusiasm, for donations. Donald Trump controlled the entirety of the U.S. government for 2 years, 2016 to 2018. He had the Supreme Court, he had the House of Representatives, he had the Senate, and he had the presidency. Why didn't they pass abortion reforms? Why didn't they do that? Why didn't they pass a bill that basically reverses any abortion protections afforded by the Supreme Court? They could have. They could have limited it in some way. Why didn't they? Do you know why? It's because the pro-life movement brings in so much money. People are so enthusiastic about it. They absolutely need to solve this problem. And if it's solved, guess what? Suddenly, there are no more donations coming in for it. It's fixed. We're done. We don't have to work with this anymore. This is just my own personal conspiracy theory, but Donald Trump could have done something to solve that problem for the pro-lifers, and he basically didn't do shit. He could have done literally anything, but that would have stopped the money flowing in. That would have stopped the votes, the single issue voters who only vote Republicans in to stop abortion. That's the power of enthusiasm. That's the power of the persecution complex, and that's why he says and does the things that he says and does. That's why he wants his audience to feel like they're hated. The enthusiasm factor. Anyway, let's keep listening.
We are going to stand valiantly for God's incredible, inerrant truths that predate any version of government. Because, my friends, if we lose this country today, if we bend the knee to the Democrats today, our country will be lost forever and our children will never know what freedom is. It's our duty to stand up. I encourage you, let us stand united as men and women of faith to fight for our country.
This kind of language is dangerous, and it's the kind of thing that he's been saying for a while. I thought this dude would learn after the news kind of came after him for that little bloodshed comment he made.
It's going to lead to one place, and it's bloodshed.
Apparently he didn't fucking learn from that. What's it going to take for him to learn? Seriously, the news really raked him over the coals over that comment. They made the clear point that it is not safe to use that kind of language, to encourage political violence. And here we are, once again.
Let us stand united as men and women of faith to fight for our country.
That kind of language, he's already been lambasted for that before. This is a bad idea. This is literally going to lead to bloodshed. Just him saying this kind of thing is going to lead to it. It's dangerous, and he shouldn't do it. But that's not where the questionable comments ended. He had more to say in this public appearance that he made. So check this next clip out. When
we start thinking that, Christians are supposed to be laissez-faire, we're not supposed to really, truly be involved in government or whatever's going on, I encourage you, look back into the Old Testament. Look at David, look at Daniel, look at Esther.
Wait, why would Christians look into the Old Testament? There weren't Christians back then. Those are Jewish people you're talking about.
Look at all of these people who influenced the governments of their day to uphold Christian principles.
To uphold what? To uphold Christian principles? In the Old Testament? I gotta wonder, does he really believe the shit that he's saying, or is he just full of shit all the way around? Does he really believe this? I try not to make assumptions about people, but statements that ridiculous, it just makes you wonder. Speaking of the Book of Esther, I was talking about this earlier. It's actually fake. Like the Book of Esther, there's no reference to known historical events in the story. A general consensus, though this consensus has been challenged, has maintained that the narrative of Esther was invented in order to provide an ideology for Purim, and the name Ahasuerus is usually understood to refer to fictionalized Xerxes I. The Book of Esther is fabricated. It's not historical at all. It was added later or made up later to some degree, and honestly shouldn't even be in the Bible. So I find it fascinating that he's making reference to one specific book that's fabricated. It isn't even real. It doesn't even belong in the Bible in the first place. And he's calling them Christian. In the Old Testament, they were Jewish. Is this real? Seriously, is this shit real? Anyway, there's a third clip that I wanted to watch. So check this clip out. See what he has to say for himself.
I believe that the power of prayer will save this country in the coming decades.
You know, we live in a secular country, secular Bill of Rights and all that. This shouldn't be something that a U.S. representative is out there on stage saying. It is counter to everything that the Founding Fathers stood for. Seriously, just look it up. Thomas Jefferson had a copy of the Bible that he cut out all the magical parts from and called it the Jefferson Bible. All the shit that couldn't have actually happened. All of the bizarre miracles and magical demons being cast out and all that shit, he cut it all out, and he kept the Jefferson Bible because he felt like the Bible had value, but not when it started spouting off all this stupid shit. The Founding Fathers didn't believe in this kind of garbage, by and large. They believed in a secular government, especially Thomas Jefferson. But here we are, the year 2021, still eating this shit up, hook, line, and sinker.
I'll tell you, when I'm in Washington, D.C., I know a lot of you consider the place to be evil and vile, and I am here to tell you with firsthand knowledge, it is evil and vile. But I will tell you, when I'm there, I don't feel an overwhelming sense of darkness and as if the devil has complete dominion of that area, because I feel a spiritual battle going on Capitol Hill.
Why would God give a shit about one country on one planet like that? Doesn't God have other projects going on anyways? I mean, there are like 192 countries in the world, aren't there? Some of which have people who are literally starving to death right now, as we speak, dying of hunger. Why does God give a shit about what's happening in Washington, D.C. right now? You know what I heard the last time some guy told me that God gave a shit about what was going on in U.S. politics? It was Pat Robertson saying that God told him that he was going to get Donald Trump elected in 2020. And before that, it was Johnny Enlow telling us God told him he picked Trump as the new president in 2020 and he would be president. These people have no connection to reality anymore at this point. They don't accept facts in front of their faces, and if they did, they don't accept the logic that we all know and use.
Patriots like all of you in this room on your knees praying that we have the cover within this spiritual fight is what it will take to save this country. Because, my friends, I'll tell you, when we're in Washington, when I have to look Nancy Pelosi in her cold, evil eyes every single day, and you know, we all laugh because it's funny, but I'll tell you, she literally just passed a bill yesterday trying to say that we can abort babies on demand all the way up until right before the day of birth.
I cannot imagine anybody would ever try to pass a bill like that. That's ridiculous. Nobody even wants that. I can see Nancy Pelosi trying to pass a bill that would allow a mother to do something like that if her life was in danger. Like, legitimately, she was going to die, and so is the baby, if they didn't do something about it. I can see that being a part of the bill, but those protections were put in by the Supreme Court all the way up to like 24 weeks, and some states have, or no, I think maybe it was 20 weeks, I don't remember, but anyways, the point is, that's usually the deadline. This whole post-birth abortion thing, that's just made up. Like, nobody wants to kill a baby after it's born. Like, that's just completely ridiculous. It's just a piece of propaganda from the pro-life movement. And you know what? Once again, as I said, if Donald Trump had wanted to actually solve this problem for Republicans, he had complete and total control over the government from 2016 to 2018. He had the House of Representatives, the Senate, the Supreme Court, and the presidency. He had all four. He could have passed a bill to fix this problem, make it more amenable, make it closer to what they believe. Why didn't he? Maybe because This subject is the source of an awful lot of donations. And if they solve this problem, those donations go away. Who fucking knows for sure? Who knows? This is all just propaganda. Like, none of these scenarios ever actually happen. I don't even know if any of this is even protected under law. This is just nonsense. It's red meat for the pro-life crowd who absolutely want to do anything, literally anything, to quote-unquote solve this problem. It's red meat for the violent extremists. And like I said, Donald Trump could have solved this problem if he had wanted to. From 2016 to 2018, just a few years ago, he held complete power. And where are we? Why didn't he do it? Why is Madison Cawthorn sitting on stage like 4 years later bitching about it instead of actually having the problem solved in their eyes?
We realize that when I quip and say I look her in her cold, evil eyes, it's not a joke. These people hate us.
No, I don't hate anybody for anything. This is all part of the propaganda. This is all part of the game. They want to work people up into a blood frenzy, get them pissed off and upset and emotional, and use that emotion against them. That has always been the goal. That's what they've been doing since day one. We cannot let them get away with this.